welcome to our webinar today. We're just going to give a few minutes for everyone to join us. In the meantime, we'll just go over a few quick housekeeping items. If you've joined us before, you know some of our housekeeping. If not, you probably know them from other webinars. But we are recording today's webinar. It will be made available to you shortly after today. Give us a couple of days to clean it up and send it your way. We'll send you an email. If you have any questions, you can put those here in the chat box in Zoom. Feel free to put those there or in the Q&A section. I'll try to keep an eye out for those and interject them to our guests as we go along throughout the day. We also love hearing from you all. So if you have a great story to share or have examples or some research, pop those in there too. This is definitely a sharing is caring crowd. So feel free to do that. Some of you are also going to be getting credits for this, for the continuing education credit, CEs. This session does qualify for 1 hour of CMP, CAE, and CEM credits. So we'll make sure you get your certificate of attendance afterwards if you attend for the whole session. So stay to the end. Today's session is exciting, so I'm sure you will. In some cases, we just submit your information out to those entities and you'll get the credits directly from them. But let's get started. I want to welcome Jim Cermak. He is a trade show. He is the trade show coach and also a podcast host for Tradeshow University. Jim, welcome. I am so excited to have you.
It is absolutely my pleasure and an honor to be here with you, Vinu. This is great. I'm really excited.
You know, I found out about you through your podcast. And listeners, if you have not seen or heard, I should say heard because it's a podcast, Jim's podcast, he has a podcast called The Tradeshow University. It is amazing. Jim, I love how you not only bring on guests that have experience as an exhibitor, but also trade show organizers, but you also do these great clips, short clips that give great little tips. Enough to digest very easily. I find myself listening to them on my morning walks with the dog, and I just love your energy that you have. Tell us a little bit more, like how did you get into podcasts? How did you become a trade show guru?
Wow, that's a great question. I never considered myself a guru until someone said that. I was like, wow, okay. I've been in marketing and using trade shows for 30 years. So on the exhibitor side, I have literally exhibited, planned hundreds of trade shows. I've worked for some companies that did one trade show a year, some that did 30 to 40 a year, of all different shapes and sizes. And so just over time, but just my very first trade show I was ever at, I was an attendee, and I was in the candy industry at the time. I worked for a candy retailer. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was a big deal back then. It was called Fannie Farmer Candy. So anyone who's been around for a while may recognize that name. But we had a couple hundred retail stores across the country, and I got to go to the candy show in Philadelphia, and that was my very first introduction to what a trade show was, and that was before the internet. So I remember my boss saying, "Hey, we're going to go to Philadelphia, go to the candy show," and I'm like, okay. I had no idea what that meant. I couldn't do any research. There was no internet to pull up on my phone and go, what's this? What is this magical place that we're going to? And it turned out to be just that. It was amazing. It was jaw-dropping and how fun it was and the energy and the excitement. And I couldn't wait to go to my next one. And then a few years down the road, I had gone to that a couple of times, but then I switched industries, made that natural transition from candy to trucking, of course. And
candy has to get there somehow, right?
That's true. Hey, there you go. There's the connection. But I was in trucking, went to a trucking industry show, and it was the same excitement and energy. And I'm like, whoa, I was not expecting that. But it's, as we all know, anyone who's been in the event industry for a while, we just fall in love with it because of the energy. It's the people, the connections that we're talking about. If from the exhibitor side, we're talking about what we do for a living. It's our company, it's our passion, it's our life. And so all that energy. And then just over time, I have learned how to do shows better. It's tons of trial and error over 30 years. And now I have formulas and things that I do. And so that led to the podcast, another long story, which I will spare everybody from, but it led to the podcast of just wanting to share because I see so many exhibitors of all sizes that just don't do shows right, or they leave lots of money on the table. And so that's why I do the podcast, because I want to share. I want people to know and get better at it and get better results, because these are huge investments of time, energy, resources, all that stuff. So there you go, long-winded answer, but
Oh, I love it. I love to hear where people, where they came from and what their journey was to where they are today. So thank you for sharing that.
oh,
So
my pleasure.
listeners, if you haven't already guessed, we're talking today about how to increase your ROI for exhibitors, thinking about them and what they need out of the show. And ultimately that's improving your program. And by improving your program and giving them what they need, you're going to be increasing your own revenue, keeping the exhibitors happy, lowering your retention, your loss rate, and just getting new exhibitors. So we have lots of good stuff to talk about today. But before we begin, I want to start off with a couple of polls just to kind of see who we've got joining us today. So, and I forgot to mention, I've got Gil Gonzalez he's our event producer. He's behind the scenes controlling our polls and everything. Gil, toss up that first poll. I want to hear from everyone about what some of their trade show goals are. So here you go. Give you a couple of seconds to fill that one out. I've got one more. I'll make it easy for you. Just kind of see where everybody's at with that. And these are pretty basic. Everybody's got goals, and I know I'm making you pick one. Pick the one thing that I've been trying to do a lot of personally and professionally is not to overextend my goals for the year, and really try to fine tune, like pick one that I can definitely take care of and do and focus on and do that well. And if you all have other goals, love to hear what that is. Just pop those into the chat. We'd love to see what you've got going on in your world.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. That's part of the fun of me being a podcaster, is talking about the future, talking about the trends, talking about what people see and what their goals are and stuff. So I love that we're starting with that poll.
Yeah. And Gil, go ahead and end this poll and let's share it with everyone what those answers are. And increase revenue from exhibitors, because you know what? I get it. If you don't have money from your exhibitors, how are you going to produce the rest of the show? So I get that. Followed by increasing show floor traffic. So that kind of goes hand in hand. I get it. So awesome, Jim. We have a little bit direction for goals. Now let's talk about strategies. Gil, let's go to that second poll. And um, let's talk about what our strategies, some of the strategies you all are looking at. Are you looking at going a little bit more digital? Maybe not going digital, but adding digital and virtual assets, looking at loyalty programs, talking to your exhibitors. I'm really excited about that one because Jim will talk a lot about that today. And then looking at data. And then if you have other strategies that you are thinking about that you would include. I am secretly, or maybe not so secret, I'm a data geek. So I am loving those that are looking into those data insights. So we can talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that too today as well. So Jim, when you plan for your podcast, I'm sure you have goals and strategies for your podcast as well. I'm kind of thinking about that. Do you like to take the approach of like coming up with lots of goals and lots of strategies and you accomplish all of that? Or are you more of like, let me focus on a few and see where I go with that?
Well, it's really if you think about the name of the podcast is Trade Show University. You think about a university, and when you go to a university, it's okay, what's your major? You want to think about it that way. And so which classes do you want to take? And so that's kind of how I've built it over time, is every episode is kind of focuses on a different topic. And so that the listener can pick and choose. And I've tried to make it easy. So even on my website, I have all the episodes, because we have 180 something, 180 plus episodes right now. And so someone can go on the website and everything is broken by category. So if they have they want to learn more about marketing, they want to learn more about data, they can just click on that category and there's all the episodes of the interviews, or I do a lot of solo episodes of me just giving tips and tricks and insights and things like that. So depending on what the category is, they can do that. Or if they just want to say, hey, I'd like to hear what Joe Colangelo from Baird Data Analytics says about it. And so they can go find him in the guest listing and click on his episode, and or something like that. So that's how I've built it out, is just to help. It's really to create that resource library of topics that will help exhibitors, help show planners, and even if there's a couple episodes just for attendees, how to walk a show, how to get the most out of show if you're just walking the show. So so there's all that kind of stuff on there. So it's really that resource, that giant resource of tools and tips and tricks.
Yeah, I think back to before we had the internet and we had all these nifty resource tools that we can tap into: community boards, discussion forums, podcasts. Like, what did we do? It's and I think a lot of it for me was just through peers and through networking. Again, it's connecting with other people to learn. But Gil, let's show the results from this last poll where we talked about strategies. And it's, I am glad to
Wow.
see that interviewing exhibitors for their feedback. I am so happy to see that. Awesome.
That
Awesome.
is
All right,
awesome.
Jim, you got
Yes,
what you need for our conversation today?
I hope so.
All
Yes, I
right.
do. Yes, I do. Of course.
Great. So, Jim, let's actually start off with, let's start with the very basic. In your podcast, you talk a lot about, listening to the exhibitors. And why is that important? I mean, if someone has a trade show that they've been doing year after year, even before pandemic, after, and it's successful, why? And, people keep renewing, but so if they're renewing, they're probably happy. So why should I talk to the exhibitors? Other than I
That-
want to be nice, but
well, that's, it's a really good question, because I know that show planners and organizers are busy. They are busy, busy people. There is so many moving parts that the exhibitor has no clue about everything, from planning the venue to the catering to the breakout sessions and all, scheduling all the meeting rooms and all that stuff. I know there's a million things. And so to add one more thing of talking to the exhibitors it's a big deal. It's a big task. It's not something that's a short little, we can do this in 10 minutes. You're talking about all your exhibitors, and maybe not all of them, but I proposed all of them. So the reason why I think it's so important as an exhibitor, from exhibiting hundreds of shows, I would say this is my most common, or had been my most common experience dealing with a show organizer. I sign up, I figure out what booth size or anything. If I have any questions, I might be able to get a couple questions answered, but I pick, here's my booth location, the size, boom, how do I make payment? And then I get the exhibitor prospectus, and it's kind of a, here you go. And if you have any questions, let us know. And many times that's the last any interaction I have with the show organizer, until maybe at the show I might run into somebody, or someone might stop by my booth to see how things are going, and then that's it. So if I could be at a show year after year and think that, yeah, this was a successful show, and maybe it was in terms of bottom line, we not only broke even, but we had a nice ROI on this event. But what could it be? What could it be? And here's something that I'll tell all the show organizers out there, all the associations, all the show planners who are bringing exhibitors together: assume they don't know how to work a show, because I can tell you the vast majority, even big companies with huge budgets, they know how to put together a beautiful display. They've trained their people up on what to do as far as their products and services, how to explain that. But they don't know how to work a show. And by work a show, that starts with the customer engagement or the attendee engagement. And I think that's really where the biggest opportunity is for the vast majority. But if you take a step back, it's helping them set goals. So many, so many exhibitors, companies I've worked for, companies I've worked with over the years, going to show, what's our goal? Oh, we're trying to load up that fishbowl with business cards or get as many badge scans as we can. That's the goal. Well, that's not a goal because you
Yeah.
can't measure as many as we can. Okay, you hit it. Okay, but what could it have been? What could it have been? And so it's really helping them set goals. And I know that's easier said than done, but maybe it starts with, what data can you provide to your exhibitor that they have no clue that you're even capturing this stuff? Okay. There's so much more data available than there ever has been. And it just keeps growing and growing. And by that, because of that, the opportunities continue to grow. And so you can help your exhibitors by telling them, okay, we can measure how long a person's been in your booth. We can measure, obviously the badge scans. We can measure these data points. What's really important to you? And have them sign up for, this is important to me. Okay, great. Now let's set some goals for those things. And then what makes the most sense? Have them set goals so that you can come back afterwards and said, you set a goal for having 120 people check in at your booth. Guess what? You had 157. Yay, great. So but if they didn't set that goal, they may never have known that 157. They may have looked at that and goes, well, yeah, it seemed like, I thought it was more than that. And all of a sudden that perception is, yeah, maybe we'll find a different show next year.
Yeah.
And so it's helping them set goals, and then but staying in that communication. It's reaching out, finding out, what are they trying to accomplish at the show. Are they trying to get leads? Are they trying to schedule demos? Are they just trying to scan badges so they can follow up later? Or maybe you have a show that they can actually sell on the show floor, depending on what industry you're in, what kind of, if you're big ticket, how long is your sales cycle? There's so much that you need to help them drill down. I don't say you need to, but if you do, it's going to pay off. It is really going to pay off, because this is a lot of questions they don't know, they don't even know to think about.
Yeah.
So
Jim, I have an example. Once I worked on a show where they've done it for years. It was a government show, and everybody that was there had always done it. And when they brought me in to improve the show as a consultant, and I took a look at it, and talked with the client and said, okay, this association, why do you think exhibitors are there? And they're like, oh, they're here to show their support for the government. And I'm like, great. Is that what your exhibitors are going to say? And they said, well, they should. I said, well, let's
should.
poll them. And we did, in terms of talking to them, there are different ways to get the feedback from exhibitors, whether it's conversations, do a simple survey. So it doesn't have to be a very in-depth process. If you've got the capacity to do something, a more robust feedback program, that's great. But if you don't, and time is of the essence, sometimes a survey will do. And we actually did a combination. And to come back, they all were all the exhibitors were trying to recruit students in this case. And I said, well, we don't have students coming to this trade show. And I said, we have none. So there was a definite mismatch of what exhibitors wanted and what the show organizer thought exhibitors wanted. And it was an aha moment. And going through kind of what I call a therapy session between these two audiences, I found we talked with exhibitors and they came down to it and they said, oh, yeah, well, for this specific show, we are there to support the government and show that we're here. And I'm like, that becomes a very different type of show. Like, what, as a show organizer, I want to be able to give you the right people that will, be able to match the expectations, right? And also the data points are very different. If you're looking for students as opposed to brand awareness, then the data that I want to give back to them is just going to be different. So out of curiosity, Jim, today we've got a lot of associations joining us today, small, large. Who do you think should be asking these questions to exhibitors? Who's the one that's responsible for reaching out to them? Because it could be various types of people. It doesn't necessarily have to be the planner, right? It could be other departments.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think, I guess if I really, maybe if I thought deeper about this, I would come up with a different answer, but I don't think it really matters who, as far as which department, which person, as long as, if I, as an exhibitor, if someone's reaching out to me and wants my opinion, I feel heard. I feel like I'm important, that you're not just taking my money, but you really are trying to create this environment for me to succeed. And so I think as long as I am okay, I'm reaching out on behalf of this XYZ association, and we have some questions we want to get your feedback on. I don't think it matters if it's the vice president of marketing, or someone in sales, or someone in operations. I don't think it really matters. I think it matters that's they're asking.
Yeah.
So I hope that makes sense.
It does. Now, Jim, I can see in your background, those are all badges that you
Yeah.
have probably from
Yes.
all the trade shows you've been to.
Yeah.
So you have probably been on the receiving end of getting a survey from a show organizer.
Yeah.
One of the things, it's funny that you mentioned Joe Colangelo with Bear Analytics. He and I are teaching a course with the Event Leadership Institute, and we talk a lot about surveys and what are we asking in surveys. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
have you come across a post-show survey to you as an exhibitor that asked you about, what are your goals? What are you interested in? Did you meet your goals, or did the show meet your objectives? Have you ever gotten a survey like that, or what are some of those questions that you'd like to see?
Yeah, no, those Vanu, those are perfect questions. And I don't see those questions too often. I will get post-show surveys, and it's typically around what could we do different next year? How was this session? Or how did you feel this worked? It was really a post-mortem of the show, and not,
Literally a
yeah,
post-mortem.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But not really focused on me as an exhibitor. So it's I think they, and another thing that and this is a pet peeve of mine, because I've got a long marketing long marketing experience, that a lot of the surveys are not done in a way that are going to get the best information. Or me as someone who's filling out the survey, there's many times I'll get to the end of a question like, wait a minute, my answer is none of these, and you're not giving me an option to either share what it is, or uh you know ask questions, and make sure that the survey is correct in just the way that you're forming the questions, way that you're asking the questions. You can get good data as well, that the people at the end aren't going, you didn't even give me an option to answer the true things that I wanted to say about that question. So make sure that those are correct. But I think, yeah, asking about um, what would have helped you. Did you set goals? Did you meet your goals? Is the ROI that you got from this show going to make you want to come back again next year? Those are things that are real indicators as to how happy and successful they were in their mind, because every company comes in with different metrics, different goals. Some just, hey, we're here to brand our company because some, hey, we're launching a new product, we want to do all sorts of research around this new product, or we're here to sell. And so if we had a bunch of people come through and no one bought, well, then it's not a very successful show. But maybe I didn't do the right things to get me to that point either. So it's really understanding what are the metrics that you're going after, and maybe this isn't the right show for you. Because I've been part of that too. I remember being at a show where we were expecting, and we were told, and I think it was part of the salesperson told, oh, this is going to be loaded with decision makers. And it was in the industry of emergency response transport, and so EMTs, paramedics, firefighters. We were expecting a lot of purchasing people. No, they weren't there. It was all EMTs and firefighters and paramedics that were there, because there were tons of CE credits and classes. And so they were there to pick up the giveaways, but the purchasing people were few and far between. So
So
um
it's like making sure that you have that intent, right? Like
mhm,
matching the intent of the show,
yeah,
and if it's combined with the conference, and making sure that that intent matches with what the exhibitors know as an intent. Because if it's a different audience that's going to be there, you're going to market and message differently as well as an exhibitor, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
So
And
we
you're gonna
have
have
this
completely different expectations.
Yeah. So we have this great question. It's like whoever wrote this question is in my mind. It was the next question I was going to ask is who do you send this exhibitor post survey out to? I know typically, planner that I've got all the booth staff people, right? And
Mhm.
it's easy to just pull that list and say, okay, let me just send out a generic survey out to all the booth staff. Is that the right audience we should be sending the survey to?
Probably not. I mean, I think I because it's tough. It's really tough because some of the booth staff might be the people that planned it and put everything together, and so you're gonna. I think that's gonna skew. That's gonna skew more for the small booths, the 10 by 10s. So if you send to the booth staff, you're probably hitting the right people, or someone in there is the right people. You're sending it to the 20 people that came from that huge company that has the 30 by 40 booth with the 2 stories, and then you're going to get a lot of data from people that just kind of showed up for a few hours, and they did their job and they left. So they're not going to give you the great data that you're looking for. And I don't think there's such thing as bad data, but it's just how do you read it? How do you analyze it? I guess there could be, of course, there is bad data.
That's a whole nother webinar topic
Yes, of
there,
course.
Jim.
But it's understanding who you did send it to. So, and I think that one thing that would be very, very important to as a point of clarification for anyone that's sending out a survey is to maybe have those one-on-one phone calls with the your main contact and said, okay, here's what we got from your company. And maybe you go through the results and say, do you agree with that? Or can you help me clarify and kind of smooth out the edges on this data so that we really know what we're looking at here. So take that extra step to really understand what are you looking at, and before you just take that raw data and start running with it and making huge changes, or patting yourself on the back for a great job well done, when someone is just check, yeah, just to get the thing off my computer screen, and I could say I did it. So
There
make
are
sure
two
you're.
things that I
Yeah.
love that you said. One is about the data piece, right? That I think there are questions that you can ask in the survey to qualify who they are. Simply
Mhm,
ask going in the top, who are you at the
mhm.
booth? Are you the marketing person? Are you a salesperson? Because there are each goals for each one of those may be different as well. So I
Yep.
think identifying that within the survey, if that's the route you're going to go, I think having those data points to compare to, again, you have those, you can filter it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, what are my salespeople saying, and how are they responding to the results? Again, it goes back to the analysis. Love that. The
Yeah.
second piece I love is filtering it down to see who responded and who do you want to talk to more. Love that piece. So not it kind of makes, if you have a very large show and you can't call 1,000 exhibitors, this
Right.
kind of fine tunes that, people that respond are probably more apt to take a call to discuss what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And for show organizers, don't stick to your registration list either. Look at the whole cycle of onboarding an exhibitor. You may have a marketing person that filled out the contract, or being able to find out who you should be asking those questions to and figuring it out. I think it may involve a little bit of homework, but at least you're doing that. But don't think that your registration list is the only place that you have data.
Yeah.
um, so Jim, as an exhibitor, we talked about, getting feedback from them. What are you seeing that's happening now, the trends? I think there are trends about what exhibitors are looking at at shows. And there's a lot of research that's out there that will say, one, is it lead generation? Is it brand awareness? What are you seeing exhibitors? What are they wanting now?
Wow, that's a very deep question. And it really, I think ultimately they want ROI. They want bottom line, especially if they are reporting up into their leadership. They want to know, are we spending good money? Are we spending? And a lot of times it's understanding where they are or what. Let's put it this way: the sales funnel. Think about the sales funnel and what can I do at my booth to get people as far down the sales funnel as possible. That's what they should be thinking about. So can I make a sale at the booth? Great. Okay, then that's as far down as we're going to go. But maybe it's just I'm going to capture a lead and qualify that person. So what they're looking for, they're looking for sales, they're looking for leads. And I think most of them just still after 30 years of doing this, they're looking for leads. They're looking for those badge scans. And so they have something fun to talk about right afterwards. But then they come back and now it's up to the sales team. It's up to whoever's going to be doing that follow up to make sure that things are followed up on. And that's where a lot of companies go off the cliff with the ROI part of it because they don't take the time to do that follow up. Of course, that's no fault of the show organizer at all. That is the expectations of the exhibitor because they come back, especially if it's a smaller company, they come back and now they had shut down their company or they put it in someone else's hands for a few days. They come back, now they've got all this work that they've got to get caught up on and they lose that momentum that they maybe gained during the show to follow up. But going back to your question, what are they looking for? I'm hoping that they are looking for, and it's a very strategic, holistic answer to that is really what can I get out of it, and how far down the chain down my funnel can I get them? At very least, you've got to qualify people at the show because you've got that golden opportunity. They're standing right in front of you. You should be talking to them to qualify them right then and there, so that when you do the follow up, you're not chasing all these leads and so many of them go nowhere because they're not even qualified. So I'm hoping that they do that. So it's more of a hope than the actual trend that's out there. But I think I'll take a different angle right now. Think about the last couple of years. I mean, the shows have completely changed, and everyone knows that. I'm not saying anything that's all that revolutionary. But I think that from the exhibitor standpoint, they're now seeing if they've been to a couple shows, okay, maybe attendance is down, but quality of people is up. It's the decision makers are there, but maybe they're not bringing 20 people from their staff this time. Maybe they're bringing their top couple people. So maybe attendance is down, but I think the quality is up. So it's really getting into those important conversations at the booth that's going to help them get toward their goals. So I think their expectations are now tempered as far as attendance, but hopefully they're going into it going with higher hopes of the quality is going to be better. Hope
Yeah.
that helps.
No, it does. It does. And, I think it's really important what you said about having the realization. I think, and a lot of our listeners today are feeling this, right? That exactly what you said, that people are still coming to trade shows. They still want to be there as
Mhm.
attendees, but they're bringing less people. So, who may be quality people, but then there may be leads that's left out there that didn't come. So how do we, when we did go virtual and we did try hybrid, we were able to include people and not
Mhm.
have travel, cost to travel, or
Right.
any other barriers be an issue. I'm curious. I know, this our industry has gone through this whole roller coaster of, of we hate hybrid, we hate virtual, we only want to do in person, and now I'm seeing this shift of, well, hey, maybe there's an advantage to all of it. What are you
Yeah.
hearing from all the guests that you've had and what you're seeing in the industry? What are what are your thoughts on hybrid virtual?
Oh man. So let me go back to, and what we all experienced at the beginning of 2020 when everything shut down, and then companies, especially exhibitors, if you think about the ones that truly embrace trade shows, they like, I need the trade show that is my year, especially if they're selling to retailers, distributors, whoever. That's my year. I make that every year at the trade show. Now it's gone. So they scrambled and they're like, well, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Oh, and thank goodness for technology. Thank goodness that even though we stumbled and bumbled and it was clunky and it was kind of ugly at times, they found some sort of a virtual platform. Some of it just on Zoom, some of it was pre-recorded video, and they just put themselves out there either one-on-one, or they got with the association, kind of brought everyone together and said, we're in this together, we're going to do this. And so they stumbled through it. And I think that some companies out of the gate got a kind of a bad taste in their mouth because, oh, this wasn't anything like the live event was. But then things started as we progressed. Now all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, we normally get 1,000 people, and we got 4,000 people at our virtual event, because people that from around the globe never would have traveled for that live event, but now they were able to log on, and now I've found a whole new customer base. And so somewhere in there is I think the long-term answer, but it can't be what we first tried out as hybrid, which was that concurrent, the live and the virtual were happening at the same time, because show organizers, any of you out there who tried that, know you probably were all pulling your hair out trying to figure out, how do we do this? Oh my gosh, I need double staff to do it, because you're really putting on two events. You're not putting on one event and just turning on a camera to record the session. No, it's there's so much to it. There's so much to it, and having the right platform to be able to facilitate engagement and all that. So okay, so I've set that up. So I'm going forward. Here's what I'm thinking. Going forward is that virtual has, now everyone's familiar with virtual. We've all done virtual events. We've Zoom. Okay, Zoom has made our lives so much easier. We're now familiar with the capabilities of Zoom, and I can do this, that, I can do that. I can do chats, I can do polls, I can do everything. What can this do for me going forward? So I want to still have my live event. Anyone who's been back to a live event knows it's almost like, oh, this is it. This is what I love. This is me getting back to the people that I love and I know, and I've built relationships. I can continue to build relationships at so much better level than I can across the screen. So what I see is maybe a virtual event that would happen before the live event, maybe with some special keynotes, breakouts, a preview of the live event, leading into the live event. And then now we've got an opportunity for a virtual 365 continuation of a community that was built. Having cut my teeth on industry shows, B2B industry shows, you'd go to the same one every year, and it was like a big family reunion. You got to see everybody, and there's hugs and high fives all around, and then you didn't see them again until the next year. Why? Now with the technology and these platforms, oh my gosh, what we can do is create that community and continue on it and continue to build relationships and collaborations, and so much that can happen year round. And having that showpiece, that trophy of the live event that's in, that one time a year or twice a year, or you have regionals, however you want to set it up. But that's what I see. And so what do you see, Vanu? I mean, you're in that world.
We are in that world. And, I got to say that I agree with you. Like during the pandemic was a great time. It was great time for experimentation. We figured out quickly what we didn't like. We figured out, some things that we like. And it's just but this is how innovation happens, right? We experiment, we get feedback, and we try to figure out what's going on. So I am excited for this next few months, next year, 2 years, whatever. But I think associations are really starting to think, okay, I got a feeling for this, and I want to re-strategize what we're doing and doing exactly what you're talking about, because associations have been talking about community building from the dawn of day, right? Or whatever that saying is. But that's key. And that's no different than involving exhibitors now. They're not a separate entity. I think associations have always struggled with, they have a conference component and then they have the trade show component, but how do you bridge those two worlds? And Kristen, great question here. I think this is exactly where we're leading to. Like, how do you get people bridge, especially in the virtual world, if they're just watching content, how do you get them over to exhibitors? And I think this is the opportunity where you can bridge those two worlds. I am a big proponent. I was doing this for in-person events and telling clients, you've got some great thought leaders with your exhibitors here. They are experts in their own fields. They've got businesses, hopefully they're successful, and they know what they're talking about. Why not tap into that? I used to do consultants corners, whatever you want to call it, but a separate track just for exhibitors where they can come and speak, not do a sales pitch, but they can speak about what they're good at. They're addressing a problem that's in that industry, or showcasing a case study, but they're sharing information and being able to present that. And I think it may not be a booth visit, it may not be a sales call, but being a thought leader is so much more influential than anything you could probably do at a booth, unless you did a thought leadership at the booth, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I'm excited for seeing how associations do that on a virtual platform, like thinking beyond just the ballroom or just a calendar of like, okay, we have our 2.5 days and that's what we're going to stick with. And you were talking about this, like, what are some of the activities that you can do beforehand that introduces people, like whether it's matchmaking or it's, giving them the opportunity to make appointment setting. Like, I almost think of it like, my team laughs at me because I talk a lot about dating apps, and I'm like, what we do is like dating apps. You're putting up your profile and you got to figure out who you want to swipe right or left on. I'm not quite sure which is the good one and which is the bad one, but it's the same kind of concept. You're looking
Yeah.
for your trade show soulmate and providing those opportunities beforehand. And then
Yeah.
you get to meet in person. It's like going to dinner, right? Go out to date, you just have dinner, and then, okay, do you want to date this person some more? What do you do afterwards, right? Like giving them the space to do that. And
Yeah.
you don't have to you don't have to pay lots of money to have a floor and walls. You can do it virtually through platforms, and I think they're all savvy. So I'm excited to see that piece of it. What are some things that you would like to see show organizers do to help exhibitors, understand how to get more out of the show? What are some things that they can do?
I would love to see them maybe provide tools and resources for the exhibitors to help them have a better show, all the way from the basics, like I said, of a goal setting. Maybe give them a goal setting guide with some of the key metrics. What is your key metric? What's the secondary thing that you're going to do? And help them to understand what all they have the opportunity to do. I say this all the time, that I think trade shows are the number one best, most efficient, and most effective marketing tool available anywhere, period. And I will argue that all day long with people. But most companies don't understand what all components are available to them. Where in the course of a day or 2, 3, 4 days, a week, however long the show is, can you be in front of your target audience and have one-on-one conversations with as many as you could possibly have? Where else can you go and do competitive research? Because if you're exhibiting, your competitors are probably there too. And you can go and you can take pictures of their booth, you can grab their literature, you can go talk to them, become a friendly competitor. Where else can you go and talk to the people from the association and learn about industry trends? Where else can you go and go to amazing breakout sessions and see keynotes and all this in the course of a few days? And a lot of them miss out on a lot of that because, hey, it's in Vegas. What else can we do in Vegas? And when they help them focus on, you're there to do business, you're there for the show, you're there, you should, if you want to stay in Vegas, then plan a couple extra days after the show. But while you're there, every waking moment, book breakfast meetings, find someone, connect with people on LinkedIn and see, oh, that person's a runner. hey, are you planning on going for a run in Vegas while you're there? How about if we run at breakfast time together or before we grab breakfast? Be creative and connect with those people. But like you said, Vanu, making that matchmaking happen, helping them help facilitate that matchmaking is so amazing, because it's not something that anyone's doing right now. We're not now to say anybody, it's very rare that is happening. But I make those tools available, whether it's goal setting, whether it's how to engage with attendees in the right way. Okay, the more than just saying hi and smiling at people, because that's not going to make them stop. It's as much as you're nice and yeah, it's not going to make them stop. So give them those tools, maybe bring in coaches, have videos. I know a podcast that can help. So make those free tools available to them that they can learn and they can grow. And so yeah, help them, just help them, give them the resources so that they can have a successful show. And if they have a successful show there, it's going to be a no-brainer for them to renew next year, to get a bigger booth and say, how can what sponsorship opportunities do I have next year? What can I want to be one of those silver sponsors, or I want to get up level next year. So, and that's just going to pay off, and you're going to outgrow your venues, and you're going to all the fun problems to have.
Well, that's the key, right? If you show them value and they get the value, they're going to want more of it,
Yeah.
right? And if they want more of it, that means that you've got returning people. And then other people in the industry, other company competitors are going to start saying, huh, what's going on there? Why are they so successful? Well, they're going to that show. I'm not. Maybe I should go to that show. So
Yeah.
I think it's kind of that it just keeps feeding on each other. I want to tell the listeners, if you have any other questions, keep them coming. We love them here. Feel free to put them in the chat or in Q&A. I still have lots of questions for you, Jim. So you talked a little bit about data and, some of the things. What are some of the data points? I talk a lot about flat data and four-dimensional data. Flat data being like, okay, this is how many people came to the show.
Mhm.
Okay, I had 3,500 people come to the show, and yay, and that's usually what you see on the prospectus, right?
Yeah, right.
What information do you think an exhibitor wants to hear?
I think the exhibitor wants to hear what they, again, it goes back to that individual company and who are they looking for. Maybe they're looking to if I bring up the example of the paramedic and firefighter show, maybe they want to sell gear to firefighters, and versus selling a truck to a purchasing department. So it's understanding who is my true target audience, who do I need to see there at the show, and understand, okay, your show is definitely it because you check that box. They will be there at that show versus no, the 80% of the people are not your target audience and 10% are, and then the other 10% might be, on the fringe. So that they need to know that. It's really them doing the homework ahead of time and knowing that quality beats quantity when it comes to attendees these days, especially these days. And because you may not see the attendees, although some shows are bursting with attendees, which is amazing to see. But I think it's really helping them to set the goals and get an understanding of their expectations so that you as a show organizer or a sales rep trying to get them to buy their booth space, that you can guide them and make that good decision. And for some for some exhibitors, it's this is probably might not be the best show for you. We would love to have you here, but it might not be the best show because of A, B, and C. I know that's a tough conversation, especially for a sales rep to have, but really asking those questions and getting to understand them. What are their needs? What is their company all about? It's not just saying, oh, there's another company that wants to be an exhibitor. Great. Here's where you make your payment. It's going above and beyond going forward.
Well, what I think is great about that is that you are asking exhibitors what information they want, which will then help derive what questions you ask the attendees, right? Whether it's in the
Yeah.
registration form or it's in your CRM or your AMS database, but being able to ask those questions so you can provide the answers back to the exhibitor. Let's hear. Maria asks, what does the conference do to draw traffic to exhibitor booths? Now, whose responsibility is that? I think it depends on who you ask, right? I've been to shows where there's been, it's not exclusive booth hours, and sometimes there's competing events to it. Sometimes they have only all the food and beverage is only in the trade show floor.
Mhm.
What are
Yeah.
some things that you see are successful in driving traffic to the booth? I mean, there's a
Yeah.
difference between the floor and the
Yeah.
booth, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, and we've seen this a lot over time. One of the things that I love is when the companies do the show organizers do the bingo cards, or you have to go to specific booths and you get a stamp. The thing that I don't see done very well is when the person gets to the booth and says, "Hey, I need a stamp here so I can go to the next," and they just give a stamp and they let the person go. It's like, no, you got to make your booth. If this is your target audience, this is your time to talk to them and engage with them. Hey, before I give you the stamp, let me ask you a couple of quick questions. They're not going to leave. They want the stamp.
Want the stamp.
Do your job. Pretend and think of this. This person in front of me. This might be my best customer ever. This might be my the next $1 million customer, first $1 million customer, or whatever. And if I let them walk, I could have just let millions of dollars in potential business walk away. And just because you don't want to bother them because they're there to play a game, you know what? But they came to your booth and they're looking for something. So get something from this. So I like those games, but they need to be played the right way, played, quote unquote, played the right way. I think that the exhibit only hours, I think, are fantastic. I think having the food right in there, but at the end of the day, it's up to the exhibitor to reach out to that person that's walking in front of them and engage. It's up to them to engage because people are going to be there on the show floor. They're going to be walking past your booth. Even if you have a crappy booth spot, it's up to you to make sure that people get there. And because the show can only do so much. It can only say, hey Vanu, while you're on the show floor, make sure you get to all the booths, and hey, we've got a special thing back there. But at the end of the day, it's up to the exhibitor.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot recently, and I think this has to do with technology, right? And being able to send out emails for exhibitors, and if you don't want to hand over a pre-show list or a post-show list, give them the ability to send a message out. And
Yes.
so as an organizer to be able to do that, I think that's one way to do it as well. I like Cindy's comment here about combining a scavenger hunt with the trivia questions.
Ah.
um, we did that. We actually were an exhibitor at a show, and we forgot to give the answers to the trivia questions to our staff. And they're like, "Oh, we guess the answer is." We're like, "Go for it."
Oh, that's
So,
funny.
but Cindy, I like that
Uh,
answer. We have another question here,
yeah.
Jim, and it's, how do you get exhibitors to understand quality versus quantity when it comes to attendees? Like, because I can
Mhm.
see that if we've trained exhibitors in prospectus, and we're using the prospectus, and we've trained them for 20, 30, 40 years of, this is how many people come, and this is the number of hours. How do we convert that conversation to saying, okay, maybe, it's about the quantity. How do you communicate that?
Well, it ultimately leads back to, what are your goals? What are the goals of your company? And if you're there to get X number of qualified leads, so qualified has to mean something. It has to have a meaning behind it. Who is a qualified lead? And you've got to ask the right questions. And that is making no judgments about who's walking in front of you, because that person who's in the tennis shoes and shorts and t-shirt, walking next to the person in a suit, the person in the shorts might be the owner of the company, and the person in the suit might be an intern. You just don't know. So you can't make those kind of judgments. And you just ask everybody a quick qualifying question. That's my number one strategy when I work with exhibitors. As I say, you've got to have one question that's going to stop people in their tracks And it could either qualify someone, or if not, you have to qualify them with a quick second question. And then if they don't qualify, you don't spend your time with them. As rough as that might sound, just let them go, because they don't qualify. They're not
Well,
going to
they
buy from
probably
you.
don't want to be there either, right? It has to
Exactly.
be
Exactly right.
mutual.
Exactly right. So get them into your booth. And then at some point, maybe just ask them a quick question. Where are you on the decision-making cycle, in the hierarchy? Are you the key decision maker? Are you part of a team? Are you a recommender? Are you someone who is just there to kind of capture information? Maybe the decision maker is somewhere else in the show. To find that out. And if they're not the decision maker, a lot of times you say, well, who is the decision maker? They'll give you the person's name. And so just asking, but understanding this is who we're going after, and this is what is qualifying, and ask the right questions so you can drill that down. So anybody who's working at your booth, as long as they have those questions, they can understand and get that quality person, and get their information so that you could do an effective follow-up.
No, Jim, I like that. The really twisting the model and thinking about what did they say in text form? WIIFM, is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it?
yeah,
What's in it for me?
yeah,
And really applying it to here, and really thinking that's, I love this whole conversation because you are bringing that exhibitor perspective to us and making us think about that, like what's important for them in speaking their language. And in doing so, that's just going to result in better strategies.
yeah, I
Jim, I
agree.
have enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for
This
taking the time. Now, I do have a
is an
few
honor.
fun questions, not
Okay.
necessarily
Ah,
related to exhibit. One does, but what I'd like to do is get to let people know in this industry, we all work really hard,
yeah,
but there's a human element to all of us,
yeah,
and making sure that we take the time to enjoy what's important for us and creating that balance. But before I jump to that question, I do have
yeah,
one last industry question, which is,
yeah.
what technology do you think is really making a difference in the trade show industry right now?
Oh, I think, well, I'll say two, and this is going to sound like such a homer answer, but the ability to capture data and slice and dice it in so many different ways is helping everybody. It's helping the show organizers, helping associations, helping the attendees, because it's not just slicing and dicing the data, but then what can you do with that data to improve the customer journey, improve the exhibitor experience, and improve everybody's ROI. Everybody's ROI. So the ability of data, and then the virtual platform. Gosh, without technology and these virtual platforms, we wouldn't have gotten through these last couple of years. And now we see what they can do. And now we see the future and go, this can be a complete game changer for our industry, for our company, for the association, engaging, because it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about people, right? We're connecting with people, we buy from people, we sell to people, we build these amazing, beautiful relationships with people. And the technologies going forward is going to enhance and allow that to continue to go no matter where you're located.
Wow,
So
Jim, thank you. Now, okay, Jim, few questions just to let's bring back the human element here.
okay.
Um, when you're not working, which it seems like you're, when I'm listening to your podcast, it's at any time. That's the beauty of the
Yeah.
podcast, right? So in my mind, you're always working.
Yeah.
But when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
I love spending time with my family. More than anything else, I'm a grandparent, a very proud grandpa of a now going on 6 months old granddaughter, and she is just amazing. Being a grandparent, any fellow grandparents out there, you know what I'm talking about. It's just amazing. So I love that. I love just spending time with the family. And if we could do it while traveling, then that's even better. So it's traveling and spending time with the family. That's what I love doing more than anything else.
Now, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Okay. So I guess if I pick a place that I've been to, Kauai. And
Ah,
the island of Kauai was my wife and I went for our 30th anniversary a couple of years ago, and it was paradise. And I could see living there more than anywhere else that I've ever been to. So yes, Kauai.
and if you could have coffee with any historical figure or any celebrity, who would it be?
Uh, Okay. I would, my dad. I would have coffee with my dad. He's been gone about 20 years, but he was an amazing dad. And over these last 20 years, there's so many times I just wish he was there. I would love to have another opportunity to sit down and talk with him about life and talk with him about everything. So yeah, he'd be the person I would love to sit down with one more time.
Jim, you're all heart, and it shows in this conversation that we've had today. It shows in your podcast. You truly care not only about your family, but you really care about what people are doing with their trade shows, and really getting
Yeah,
to make sure that everyone's successful and getting them on the right path. I really have enjoyed this. Thank you
me
again
too.
for taking the time.
Yeah.
But before we leave, I want to tell everyone we again about we'll send you the recording. We also have we are drying off the ink on our guide to how to improve your ROI using a virtual event platform. If you're interested in that, I'll send you some details about how you can get that in an email to you along with the recording. But Jim, if people want to reach out to you or they want to see the podcast, and Gil, maybe you can throw up that slide. Tell us how we can how we can hear your podcast.
Yeah, yeah. So if you want to hear the podcast, like I mentioned earlier, go to tradeshowu.biz/episodes. That's right on my website, and it's available on every podcast platform. So whichever one you like listening to, Apple, Google, Spotify, get over there and just look up for Trade Show University, and then connect with me. Reach out on LinkedIn or send me an email, jim@tradeshowu.biz. So that's the best way to do it. Oh, and if you go to my website and you sign up for the email newsletter, you immediately get access to a brand new video training that I just put together, and it's perfect. It's for exhibitors, but it's perfect for show organizers. How to pick the right show, how to pick the right trade show for your exhibitors. So you can take them through 7 questions. So as a show organizer, you can listen to those 7 questions and help your exhibitors walk through those so they can understand why your show is the best show for them.
And
There you
Jim,
go.
to your point earlier, this is a great resource to give to exhibitors to
Absolutely.
help them
All
on their
free,
path.
all
Yeah.
free, no cost.
And
My
Gil, I
heart
think
going out
there's
to the
one more
trade show
slide
world.
there for Jim that we want to show. Just I think with this contact information, let's throw that up as well. Maybe.
Or whatever
But
was up
either
there.
way, we'll make sure
Yeah.
that in the emails and everything we give out to you guys, that you have all of his information. Jim, again, thank you. And everyone, thank you for joining us. I hope you had a good conversation with us today and it was
Oh,
helpful. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Keep on being amazing. Thank you, everyone.
thank you.